Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Welcome to Pillow Talk with Dr. Boyce and Dr. Alicia Watkins. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins, and I hope everybody's doing well. And I will say hello. I see Tara Redmond's already here. She says, sorry for the typo. I don't see a typo, Tara. You're always perfect in my book. So, anyway, how's everybody doing? I hope you're doing well. And I'm here with my lovely wife laying against my pillow. How you doing today, babe?
I'm doing okay. You have a lot of energy in the morning.
I do. Well, what testosterone gives men's testosterone peaks in the morning. And then also I go to the gym and I'm lifting weights at 5:30 in the morning. So I'm gonna be amped.
Not just amped, it's just like you're so noisy in the morning.
I'm gonna be amped and noisy.
Like you're noisy, your phone is noisy, everything is just noisy. And I'm
Yes.
trying to relax.
Yes, that's right. High impact behavior.
High impact behavior. Uh,
Hey Willa, how are you? Okay, first off, a quick audio check. Can you guys hear us? Give us a quick yes. If you can hear us, put a yes in the chat. If you can hear us, shout out the city you're from. Put the name of your business in the chat. We want to support black-owned businesses, and I want to say hello to everybody, and also remind you that we're just less than 2 weeks away from the All Black National Convention. That's a big deal, right?
oh gosh, 2 weeks from now, it'll be over in 2 weeks.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah.
less than 2 weeks away.
Yeah, yeah, that's our big family reunion we have once a year, and we've got a big lineup of people. If you go to allblacknationalconvention.com, you can hang out with us in Chicago. It's basically something where black people get together and we solve our own problems. Surprise, surprise. I know we think that we need everybody else and we need white folks to do it for us, but I don't believe that. I believe that we have all the experts that we need, and a lot of you come out to the convention every year, and I want to say thank you for being a part of all of this, and we won't let you down this year. Not only will you learn a lot, but you'll connect. You'll get a chance to spend time around other like-minded people. So if you are a person that believes in black love, if you believe in black wealth, if you believe that black people should be mentally and physically healthy, then the convention's for you. You can go to allblacknationalconvention.com. We meet in Lombard, Illinois, right outside of Chicago, October 25th to the 27th. So it's very, very soon. So anyway, let's hop into our conversation for today. Hey, my name is Corey and James Keller. Good morning to you, and Smart Dog out of Chester, Virginia. All right, so how many of you have heard about Halle Bailey from The Little Mermaid? Did well, you know Halle Bailey, babe, right?
Yeah, you instructed me to read up on her, and I did.
Yeah, yeah, she's a talented actress, right?
Actress and singer.
Yeah, singer too. Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
I
so
forgot.
they got their debut. Hey, did you know that she's the first cousin to Charlemagne the God?
Is she really?
Yeah, I just read her Wikipedia page.
Wow, that I did not know.
Yeah, look
Okay,
at that.
interesting, interesting. Well, that's
Talented people all through their family.
or connected too. I mean, if Charlemagne's your cousin and you got an ounce of talent, you should be famous.
Yeah, but I mean,
But she's got more than an ounce of talent.
she's famous in her own right. Her and
She
her
got a couple of
sister,
pounds. Yeah, her sister too. Her sister Chloe is that her name?
Chloe. Chloe.
Yeah, yeah. So anyway, Hallie had a baby, and
She
that was kind
did.
of a surprise. She had a baby with a guy. I thought he was a rapper. His name is his online name is
DDG.
DDG. I don't have his real name in front of me, but she had a baby with this guy DDG. And at first I thought he was just a broke rapper.
He's not a rapper, he's a YouTuber.
Yeah, he has 4 million
Yeah,
subscribers.
he's a gamer YouTuber.
Yeah, okay, so he's had his own type of success.
That's right.
Yeah, yeah, and he does. I looked at his channel, and some of the content's interesting. It's like he said he spent $100,000 in an hour, in 3 hours in Beverly Hills. That's not a flex. That means you give your money away. But that's what you do when you're young. You do stuff like that to try to show off. He says he has a $15 million Malibu mansion. It says, I don't know if he lives there or, but then there's like a $1.5 million penthouse tour. So I don't know if these are his places or what, but it seems like he's doing well
Okay.
on his own right. Good for him. Yeah, and so they have this baby, right? And there's been a lot of internet chatter about this
Oh,
baby,
look at the
and
baby.
yeah, the baby's cute, right?
Wow, they named the baby Halo. I read that
Really?
online.
Well, that's
Halo.
nice. Yeah, well, Halo. It's so, and then they
Oh,
gave.
that might be a nod to Beyonce because Beyonce discovered them.
Oh, really?
They're signed to Beyonce's record label.
Are they? Interesting.
Well, they got famous on YouTube. I read it in the Wikipedia. They got famous on YouTube for doing Beyonce's cover of music.
Really?
Yeah, and it went viral, and they were on the Ellen show, and then that's how Beyonce discovered them, I
Oh,
guess.
wow.
Yeah,
That's really cool. Good for them.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And now they're also famous for because they broke up. Like as soon as the baby was born, it was like we out of here. We ain't doing this family thing. We all about YouTubing and making movies and forget raising kids and stuff together. So that's been like a little
Wait,
bit.
hold on. What did you say?
I'm being
Forget
silly.
raising
I'm
kids
being
together?
silly. I'm joking. I'm joking.
Listen, your extreme talk voice. Just
Yeah.
reel it in a little
I
bit.
ain't gonna lie. You know what? I get. I'm sorry.
Pull it
I'm
in.
sorry. I feel like if you're gonna not raise the baby together, and can't even do it together for like
That's what
2 or 3 years,
they're
no,
saying.
live together. Children, black children don't. We. It's got to the point where one aspect of white privilege is there's a high probability that your father and your mother are in the same house. We don't even believe black people deserve that. We don't even think our black children even. It's like, oh no, his daddy lives across town and he sees him once a week, so everything's fine.
Well, that's the gold standard, of course, is to have your parents married, hello,
Mm,
living intact family with a loving interaction in that household. That's the gold standard, okay? But sometimes people can co-parent. There are ways to mitigate some of the negative effects of not having them there. And you know what mitigation means.
yes, I do know what
Right.
mitigation.
Okay.
I have a PhD of my own. You do
Okay,
know
I
that,
just
right?
want to let you know there are ways to mitigate that, because if there wasn't, then what's the point of having a therapist? What's the point of therapy and counseling?
What
It'd
is the
be
point
no
of
point
therapy?
to it.
What is the point of it?
It's to fill in the mitigation gaps. There's ways to mitigate things
Okay.
so that you still have a loving environment for a child, and that's what counts.
Well, it was really
Yeah.
interesting that DDG, after the relationship was over, he pretty much said that having a relationship is like having a part-time job, and that it's and if you look at his channel, I noticed that he had it's like he's it kind of got the typical kind of channel you would expect from like a 21-year-old millionaire. I think I mean, but he's like probably 23 or 24 by now, I'm sure. But I saw like videos where he was surrounded by these like young girls in bikinis and bathing suits, right? So I'm sitting there thinking that's really interesting because I wouldn't necessarily expect that a young rich black man in hip hop culture who's surrounded by gorgeous women is necessarily going to be able to fit into the context of a traditional relationship.
Well, he had to make that decision.
But
He
did
had to
he?
make a
But did he make that decision?
he did clearly.
Are you sure he did, or did he just decide to have sex with her, and then a baby pops out, and then it's like,
No,
oh,
they were in a relationship. She said that she was absolutely in love with him. I
right,
don't know what he said about her, but she said that she was in love with him because they went public with their relationship.
mm.
So I assume they were in an exclusive monogamous relationship.
And maybe he was in love with her, but he just wasn't exclusive, or he thought he could be exclusive, but he just wasn't because he's surrounded by all these gorgeous women,
Well,
like.
maybe he just wasn't willing to grow in that way for whatever reason.
Yeah, yeah. I think,
Hmm.
and what I think bothers me about it is now I'm not a therapist. I don't have the therapy degrees like you do. But I am a black man who's 53 years old who's kind of seen a lot. I see this all the time. I do. I see a marriage between some young girl and like a rapper or an athlete or somebody who's in a whole culture that's not even built on anything remotely connected to monogamy. And then they say, oh, let's get together and let's have sex because sex is fun and there's lots of dopamine released and you just have a pleasurable experience. And then it's like, oh my God, somebody's pregnant. And then the baby comes out. Then it's like, yeah, we're going to raise this baby together. And then within about 3 or 4 months, the baby doesn't even have a shot at having their parents in the same house. And it's just a pattern that keeps getting repeated. And I keep wondering if there's a point where people are going to stop and say, why do we keep ourselves in this relationship purgatory of the same thing happening over again? Are we going to ever have authentic conversations about why it's happening and try to diagnose the issue and fix it?
I was talking about that last night in the book club about finding a partner, that it really takes a level of psychological growth
Mm,
to be in a relationship of substance. So the intimacy for money and being with someone who's just a trophy girlfriend, that's a level of immaturity. And a sign of maturity is taking on the responsibility of being held and holding someone and having authentic love.
Mm,
Yeah. Let's
okay.
talked about that last night.
Interesting.
Mhm.
Well, I could say this. I think that there's a massive cost to broken families that we don't acknowledge in the black community. I think that there's a
Yeah.
massive financial cost. It's hard for men to have a kid here and have a kid there, and then and then decide when they're 35, oh yeah, now I want to get married and have regular kids. But you've got all these other kids, these little seeds you've dropped through the
Mhm.
years who are might be resentful of the fact that, oh, like now you want to grow up, now you want to be a dad, and then
Mm.
also the financial cost is high. Single mothers tend to struggle financially. Now I don't think that will be the case with Halle and DDG though, because they both seem to have some money, and it's interesting though. It makes you wonder, were you even fooling yourselves to even think that you could even do what a traditional family does when there's nothing about your lifestyles that is traditional? There's nothing about being a YouTuber with 4 million followers that's traditional. There's nothing about being in Disney movies that's traditional. So why would you even try? Why not just, from the beginning, just say, hey, we're just gonna, do it in this weird celebrity way and let that be that.
Well, I think that they were really in love. I think that she really loved him, according to what she had to say. And I think it's okay to do childish things when you're in your 20s. When you're a child, it's great to do childish things. When you have a baby and you're in a relationship, I think it's great to grow and evolve. Don't you
Hmm.
think? I mean, that's okay. Like what I did at 19 and 20 is not the same thing I do now. Remember, I talk about how I like going to the club. I love going to the clubs. I like dancing and listening to music. It just, my lifestyle just didn't sustain that anymore. I wanted to get an education. There were other things that I wanted to do with my life that kind of crushed my whole youth. I had to
Mm.
grow up and
Anyway.
make hard decisions. I ain't going out to the club anymore. I got to get up in the morning and go to boot camp.
Mm. Anyway, by the way, guys, you're watching Pillow Talk with Dr. Boyce and Dr. Alicia Watkins. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins. This is my wife, Dr. Alicia, and our goal, Dr. Alicia is a licensed therapist and a full professor of social work, and my PhD is in finance. And our goal is to have intelligent, fun conversations against our pillows about things happening in the Black community because we believe in Black health, wealth, and relationships. So if you could hit the thumbs up button, thumbs up, share, subscribe. And I want to remind you, Dr. Alicia is doing a Healing Haven event that you guys can
Oh
attend
yeah.
for free. Now, that's going to be Thursday night at 8 o'clock.
Yes, Thursday night at 8 o'clock.
What's
It's
the
gonna
goal of the
be
Healing Haven?
so
What?
fun. I get to teach. I'm for 45 minutes. I'm gonna be teaching people how to never experience stress.
Wow.
So many people think it's not possible, but it is. It's
Okay.
kind of like what I do with my clients. And I just figure instead of talking individually, oh my God, I could just go crazy talking to one person individually. I might as well talk to a group of people about everything that I've learned about not dealing with stress anymore.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you are a stressed out person or if you just want to grow, the event is free and it's Thursday night at 8 o'clock. If you'd like to be notified on how to sign up, just text the word love to the number 87948. If you text love to 87948, we will text out the link so you guys can join the Healing Haven event on Thursday. So anyway, all right, so back to this. So DDG, who is a pretty famous YouTuber, and Halle Bailey, who's in all the Little Mermaid movies, or one Little Mermaid movie, I guess.
She was in The Little Mermaid, the controversial Little Mermaid movie.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
She basically ended up, I guess, having a baby with DDG, and the baby was born. And a few months after the baby was born, they broke up. And I heard DDG sort of talk about, how having a relationship is like a part time job, and she hasn't really said a whole lot.
She said
And
nothing.
I'm not gonna lie, I get really sad like whenever I see a child that comes into the world and don't even have a chance to have two parents inside the
It
house.
is
Like I
sad.
kind of feel
Yeah.
like, like, and I think that there's an emotional, you talked about emotional maturity, and I think that there's not enough emphasis on emotional intelligence, right? In our community, right? Because a lot of times, I mean, think about it. If you really love somebody, like you say you do, then you'll submit to the situation. You'll compromise. you'll set your ass down and give in on an argument, even if you think that you're going to win the argument. Like they always say, do you want to win or do you want to stay married? Right. And I personally don't think, to me, if you're not willing to make that type of emotional sacrifice to force yourself to have emotional discipline,
Mm-hmm.
then
Mm-hmm.
I'm skeptical of the idea that you really love your child and you really love your family and you really love that man or you love that woman. If you can't back down and sort of just say, you know what, it ain't worth it.
What
You
do you
know,
mean it's not worth it? What do you mean?
the fight,
What's not worth it?
whatever the hell you fighting about, whatever the hell it is that's going to cause your child to have to grow up without his daddy in the house anymore.
Mm-hmm. So
You
he
know,
wasn't as committed. The
she,
commitment,
maybe it's her,
he or she,
right?
both of them aren't committed to each other. It takes two people to be committed. So for whatever reason they weren't committed. We don't know the reason. They never said the reason.
Yeah,
But they do not have that commitment
yeah,
to each other anymore.
and one thing I really kind of think that isn't discussed very often is when you're talking about celebrities,
Hmm.
celebrity culture, it kind of spoils you. So if you take Halle Bailey, who's known around the world, who's making millions of dollars, who's in Disney movies and everything else, she's used to being treated at a certain level. She could, you never know, sometimes diva like personality
You don't
issues can,
get
but
diva from
I'm
her.
not
She
saying that
just seems like a really sweet little
she
child.
she seems that way, but
She seems that way, so but we don't know. She comes across as I don't know this guy at all, but I know she comes across as just like sweet as apple pie.
right, she comes off
As a
across.
Georgia peach.
Yeah, but she had a baby with a rapper, so that means she
Well,
she
he's not a
she
rapper.
ain't a good girl all the time.
He's not just a rapper. He's a YouTuber. And
Yeah.
she's an artist too. I mean, it would make sense the two artists would get together. Like we don't know the content of his music. Like we don't know what
Hmm.
if he maybe he's got something to say, who knows? But her music is beautiful. Her voice is
She
just
is, but I think
she's
we
like
got to
an
get rid of.
angel.
Yeah, but I don't fall for that narrative that the woman's always the sweetheart and the man is the villain.
No, I didn't say that. I
Right,
said her.
right.
She in particular comes
She's
across like
also an
that.
actress, so I mean,
Well,
I'm not
part
saying.
of who you are
Right,
is
but
reflected
let's
in.
get move on though. That wasn't my point. My point is not to cast blame. My point is to say that you got her who's treated at a certain level, and then you've got him who's probably who could be a little spoiled. Also, he's making millions of dollars. He's got all these women all around. He's got a lot of yes people around him. So what I have noticed is that people who are spoiled like that don't do well in relationship situations that require them to compromise. Because why would you?
Oh,
Why would you compromise to this person in the house who's
you
demanding
have
things
to
from
be
you?
grounded.
Right, you have to have a reason to want to be there. And I'd be curious to know, were either one of them raised in a household where they saw their mother and their father compromise every
Well,
day?
she did.
Did she
Her parents were together, from what I read.
really? Okay.
Her father was her manager,
Mm.
and they moved from Georgia to California so that the two sisters there's two other children, so that those two sisters for some reason I thought they were twins, but they're not twins. They look so much
Hmm.
alike.
They
But
do.
so that the two sisters could go and pursue their career, and they're self-taught. They taught themselves how to play the guitar
Wow,
based on
nice.
YouTube videos. Based on YouTube videos.
Mm.
Interesting. And that he sent her a DM and that's how they met. She listened to a song and she really admired his music. So he's got something to say that she enjoys and that he as soon as she heard the song he DM'd her.
Oh, nice.
So it's a love that's made in the DMs.
Well, a
You
lot of
never know,
well,
boys.
yeah, a lot of love happens in the DMs. I don't,
Mhm.
yeah, I would say overall, it's kind of like, I like to diagnose and solve problems. I like to understand things, right? I don't like to look at it like, oh, it just happened and it just fell apart and fate just did the. No, I'm like, what was the? How do we sort of look at this and learn from this, right? So, what I'm really wondering is, just sort of in terms of the dynamic, like I think it's something like, okay, if you believe she's a sweetheart, and if you
Well, she
believe,
comes across that way. I
right,
don't know
and
what
he's
she's
he's
like.
the only one who's been public, right? He's the only one who's been out sort of talking about their relationship. I think that was inappropriate. I think that
What did he say?
I know one he made one comment about oral sex and like she's not good at it or something,
He said that?
which I think is definitely
That's
terrible.
so
Yeah,
tacky.
that's very tacky, right? right? And I don't like. But here's the thing. Here's what I'm saying. Here's what I want to get to. I wonder how her father feels about him, right? I wonder how her father, if she's raised in a specific context and has a
Oh.
specific type of dad. Did she pick a man that was like her dad? Did she look at him and say, you remind me of my father when he was your age?
But don't you always? I mean, she might not be conscious of it, but there has to be some elements in there.
You would expect that to be the case, but then you just really don't know. And the reason I say that is because I think a lot of young girls, good girls, get sucked in by the bad boy personas, and
Mm.
then they have babies with the bad boys. And then what you're seeing online in the red pill community, all the passport brothers and people that some people make fun of, is these are not the passport brothers are not typically the bad guys. They're not the ones who are the rappers and the celebrities, the guys cheating on their women and all that. These are the guys who were the nerds in school. They became the engineers or whatever. And I think they have a resentment because they feel like they were passed over by the Halle Baileys
Really?
who picked the bad boys who wanted to go and sleep with
I always.
like Sierra. They love to talk about Russell Wilson and Sierra,
Uh,
and they say, wait, so you go and you decide to pass up the good men so you can go chase a rapper. Now you're pregnant by the rapper. And now you're looking for a good guy to clean up your
oh,
mess.
that's so
To take
negative.
care, I know it's very negative, but it's their feelings. I want to acknowledge their feeling. But they feel like, wait, so now you're in your 30s and it ain't fun no more. The bad boy ain't fun no more, and now you want a good guy, the same good guy that you passed over in college. You want him to step in and become the stepdad. And so I'd be curious to know how people feel about that and get your thoughts on that.
Well, I just figure the Passport Brothers, to me, when I listen to them talk, they just seem like people, a group of individuals who are in a lot of pain and haven't effectively digested all of that.
Mm,
And they don't see their part in things. They rather
mm,
externalize all of their issues as pointing toward a particular group of people. So
mm,
I don't ever think that that's pretty healthy at all.
true.
And we don't know. I mean, we don't know. DDG could have a nice little tender, soft side because sometimes your persona on as a YouTuber is not the same as you are one on one. Like how you are in when you do videos, boys. Like when me and you, when we're together, we don't even talk about what's going on online. It's almost like we have two different lives. I mean, they're similar. I mean, they're not disconnected or contradictory, but when we're together and we have regular conversations, we don't even talk about what's going on YouTube or what videos you did. Like we don't even talk about that. We just talk about me and you. It's a regular relationship.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I think also I'd be curious. And this is really more so about people listening, not so much about him and her. Um, if you make the assumption that, and I want to find out about his family, like how was he raised? Did his father stick with him growing up, or did his father
It didn't say.
run the world and chase women?
I was trying to look it up, but it didn't say much about his family. His Wikipedia page was pretty sparse.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the reason I asked that part is because one thing I think people got to think about is when you start a family, it's like starting a business.
Mm.
If you start a business or a family with somebody, you need to really think about your business partner.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
you need to vet them
For sure.
carefully. You
Mhm.
can't just pick a you don't pick like if you're gonna go start a business and you want it to grow into a multi-million-dollar company, you don't go pick somebody who's never run a business before. You don't pick somebody with no experience who's bankrupt a bunch of companies, right? So same thing is true with when starting a family. Rap culture, let's just be honest. If he's a rapper, that right there should take points away
Why?
because most rappers I know are not good at family. I'm not saying all of them are not. Like D1, D1 and I've had
Yeah, I
extensive
was gonna
conversations.
say,
Right,
yeah.
but the rap culture, think about it, the
Mhm.
sex trafficking shit, the Diddy culture. Diddy was big in hip hop. Diddy influenced a lot of young rappers. A lot of young rappers embraced the Diddy culture. There's nothing that's pro family about the Diddy baby oil culture. And that's everywhere, right? And what I'm saying is that, so here's my point. If I'm trying to build a family, 9 times out of 10, I'm not going to try to build a family with a rapper. If you want to be a baby mama, rappers they mass produce babies mamas in the hip hop culture. They're good at that. But
Well,
if
I
you're
think
talking
that's
about
what's
trying to,
being promoted. Yeah, I hear what you're saying.
right, if you're trying to get a family that has structure, one man, one woman, we take care of the children, we sacrifice for the family, the home is the most important thing in the world. I'm putting my ego to the side. Most rappers I know are not that good at that. Like you and I both spent, you were sitting there with me for hours as I was talking to Kanye West. Is there anything about that conversation that tells you that this man is going to be good at managing a solid, structured household with two parents and children? No.
Well, I have hope in it. I have hope and that's sad because we didn't talk about Kanye West. His seems like his marriage is on the rocks.
Surprise, surprise.
But, I think with Kanye West, it's a whole different story because of the mental health challenges that he hasn't necessarily dealt with. And there's so many people, especially Black folks, who just walk around and they really need some treatment. I mean, not even just therapy, but they need to see a psychiatrist. And I just feel like, rightfully so, there's just healthy paranoia among us where we just don't believe in subscribing to that. But I really think that we need to embrace psychiatry and aspects where it's so important that we need to like tackle our mental health. It's so curable. Like if you have bipolar depression or if you have like a severe mental health issue, it is possible to be treated. It is possible to grow. You can start off as a rapper. There's so many people who start off as a rapper, but you can get married and have children and live a full life like Ice Cube. You don't hear
Mhm.
anything about Ice Cube. So there's a development there. There's a transition. Ice Cube was doing family movies. Like he grew and transitioned. And I think it's possible. I don't think that your past is going to necessarily dictate how your future is going to be. I think that with intervention and with therapy and with just self discovery and development, you can develop into somebody who can have a family no matter where you start.
So true.
Yeah.
Anyway, by the way, guys, you're watching Pill Talk with Dr. Boyce and Dr. Alicia Watkins. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins. This is my wife, Dr. Alicia Watkins. Dr. Alicia is a licensed therapist and a full professor of social work. If you'd like to see more about what she does, feel free to go to coachingwithdralicia.com. The URLs on the screen, coachingwithdralicia.com. Also, Dr. Alicia is doing a special Healing Haven event on how to get rid of stress and drama in your life. It's going to be Thursday night at 8 o'clock. One-time event. Because you're here, you can get a free invitation. Just text the word love to 87948 on your phone. Don't put it in the chat. Text it on your phone put in the number 87948 and text the word love to that number. And Dr. Alicia will send you a private invitation to this private Zoom to be a part of her discussion on removing stress from your life.
Yeah,
So
I'm a hopeless optimistic. I'm
hopeless,
optimist.
it's optimist, not
Optimist.
optimistic.
Well, I'm an optimist because I'm optimistic about us as Black people. I think that we can achieve anything that we want to achieve. We're so good at everything we do. We're even
Yeah.
good at
Mhm.
destructive things as well.
Yeah. 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 Raquel says, I saw somewhere that Kanye asked his wife to sleep with her mother. Have you guys seen that yet? Yeah.
Kanye asked his wife,
Yeah. I don't want to
could he
speculate
sleep
on
with his
the gossip
mother?
side. I know Kanye, I mean, I knew from personal experience Kanye is kind of weird, but though, yeah, I don't know the whole thing about sleeping with people's mothers. I'm not even gonna, I have nothing to say about that. I mean, if it were true, it'd be
Yeah, I
strange, but
wish I wish for him to have a healthy attachment in his life.
well,
That's just what I wish for him. Again, I'm optimistic about everything.
we wish him the best. We wish him the best. But
Yeah.
yeah. So overall, here's one last point I'll make on this. As we were kind of talking about this broken family thing. Um, I really think people should, if you want to do this properly, get training on how to build a family and make sure you know what you're getting into. Be intentional about your life. When you enter, relationships are sneaky and tricky. I spent a lot of time studying what happens when we fall in love and when we have sex. And it's all about the dopamine and the oxytocin and the bonding that occurs and the pleasure seeking, right? Because so we're having kind of these temporary thoughts that lead to these long-term outcomes called children, right? And then when the kids get here, there's a responsibility that comes with that, where it's like, okay, now we got to raise this child to the age of 18 or and beyond. And I don't know if a lot of people are ready for that. They've never seen it done. They don't have any training at it. And I just want black folks to kind of process that you're losing because of that. Like you're losing economically because you can't keep your families together. Trillions, trillions of dollars in black wealth being thrown out the window. So my thought would be the same way you train for your job, you should train for your important role of being the head of a household. A lot of folks will spend more time training for a white man's job than we'll spend training to run a black man's family. And I personally think that that's backward. I think that that is problematic thinking. Our children suffer because of it, and it's just not right. It doesn't. Better yet, not only is it not right, but it leads to all the chaos that you see in these streets. When you see all these kids running the streets in Chicago, shooting each other up, go look in their household and look at what kind of structure they have in their houses. That'll explain everything you need to know. So
Mhm.
I'm gonna let you get the last word, babe. Then we'll bounce out.
Yeah, family structure is important, but it's not everything. Okay, it's having a loving household. So that that even trumps structure
Don't
of a
forget
family.
discipline. You gotta have a disciplined, loving household, in my opinion.
Well, that's what love means. Love means discipline. It doesn't mean abuse. It doesn't mean fighting with your kids and calling them names and putting them down and balling up your fist and punching them in the face. That's why those kids are so angry, and so it doesn't mean any of those things. There's some mitigating factors, and we know that a loving household is what a child needs. So all the best to Haley and
Well, you better discipline the
everybody
child, or
else.
the police officer gonna punch your
But
son in the
that's what
face.
love means. Love means discipline.
Hmm.
It does not mean abuse.
It does.
Child abuse is not
It does. It
acceptable.
doesn't
And
mean
that's why
right.
those kids
It
are
does.
running
But hold
around
on, wait. I
Chicago.
get it. I get it. But it doesn't mean abuse. But it does mean that discipline can't just be love. Like
Well,
love.
love is discipline.
Well, some people, love means always making everybody feel good all the time.
No, that's not what love
I
means.
know. I'm not saying it means that to everyone. I'm saying it's for some people,
No,
right?
neglect is not love.
Like I can say this. My mama loved me, but my father disciplined me, and he didn't always do it in a perfect way, but it kept me off the streets and kept me from getting shot up by a police officer, right? Because what happens with boys,
Well, you're talking about
well, let me
neglect.
just say this is the reason why boys need a father in the house if they want to be safe 9 times out of 10 is because when boys get about 13 or 14, a lot of boys don't listen to their mothers anymore. Just because
Mm-hmm.
their mothers, are nurturers and
Mm-hmm.
will feed them, but the mothers are not other dudes. So
Mm-hmm.
so men
Yeah.
men will get to the point where they're like, whatever, I ain't listening to you. I'm gonna go out to the street and find my male role models who might guide me down a
Some
pathway
do,
that
yeah.
might lead me to war. War with the police, war in the military, war in the streets, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I personally think that that father in the house is important because the father's the one who understands war. And,
Fathers are so important.
yeah, yeah,
Mm-hmm. And
and
mm-hmm.
I personally think that, and when the boy isn't exposed to that, when he's only got his mother, and then he goes out
Mm-hmm.
in the streets, he can go out without understanding that these streets ain't playing with you. This
Mm-hmm.
world ain't playing. The world ain't your mama. The world don't love you like your mama. That police officer, if you talk shit to him the way you talk crazy to other people in the house, he might put that billy club straight in your teeth
Mm-hmm.
and then drag you to jail. And I just personally think that black boys lose because they don't have those fathers right there in their faces to keep them straight and in line,
Mm-hmm.
because as much. And I will just say this, and I'm going to finish this point. I'm going to be done with this, and I know you got something else you want to say because we don't agree on this, and I
What do
acknowledge
you
that.
mean we don't agree?
Well,
Really? You think abuse is okay? You
no,
think neglecting a
listen. I'm
child
not
is
saying it's
okay?
no, it's not. It's terrible. It's absolutely terrible.
Okay.
But what's more
So
terrible?
how do
But
we
listen, listen,
disagree?
listen, 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 listen. You got to listen. What I'm saying is, my father was a police officer, a Vietnam veteran with PTSD, and a mean motherfucker. I mean, there were times where my father was hard on me, and he was harder than he should have been. He's apologized to me for that. But let me just say this: as hard as my father was to me, it wasn't black and white. It wasn't like he was always a bastard. There were many days where he was loving, and many days where he was protective, many days where he saved me from things. And I can tell you, as hard as it was to grow up in that house and with all that really tough discipline, it would have been 100 times harder to get 30 years in prison and be getting raped every day and beaten every day by prison guards and other inmates because I did not know how the world really worked. So I'm not saying that it's okay. I'm not saying that any of it's perfect. It wasn't. My father was a kid, the one who raised me. I'm not talking about my biological dad. He wasn't around. I didn't know this man. My dad that raised me was not a perfect man, but I'm very happy that he saved me, protected me from the streets. Because I saw friends who are dead now, who are in prison right now. I have a cousin who just got 10 years in prison. I would trade. I wouldn't trade my experience for 10 years in prison under any circumstances. And so April says I need to let you talk. So I'm gonna let you talk. But April, you need to let men talk too, April. So don't think that women are the only ones who have a voice in
Boyce,
these
no
conversations.
one's stopping you from
Right, right, right,
talking,
right. No,
Boyce.
no, no. But what I want, no, no.
But
But I want to make that clear though. Like I think your voice is important. But there's a lot of men who don't feel heard, and I want to speak for that. So go ahead. You get the last word.
child abuse and neglect is unacceptable.
Absolutely.
And that's the reason why you have a lot of kids out on those streets. And the ones who um, dealt with child abuse, the ones who dealt with neglect, not all of them went to the streets. Some of them internalized that and turned it into themselves and suffer from depression, feeling like they're inadequate, feeling like there's something wrong with them because they were called names and put down in their household. That is never okay.
No, it's
I
not.
do not
It's
think,
not okay at all.
I do not think child abuse and neglect is healthy.
It's not.
Okay. So, how are we not on the same page? Child abuse and neglect is not discipline.
No, it's not.
Cowards abuse children. Men, real men, disciplines their children, but they do not abuse them. And real mothers love their children, but they do not neglect their children. I am not going to talk about you in particular, Boyce, because I don't know how your childhood was. I just heard stories, but I don't really know for sure. I'm saying globally. I
Mm,
don't want to comment on you and your situation, but that's what I want to say. Children are walking around feeling unloved, and that's
mm.
not okay.
So true.
Thank you.
I agree a
So
hundred
how do
percent.
we not agree then?
It's not that we don't agree. It's more like women don't understand how men raise men.
Okay,
That's my
let's
point.
we're done.
I don't
Let's
believe, and just like I
let's
don't,
take a nap
just like I
before
don't,
we
just like I don't, I will never fully as a man understand the way you interact with our girls. I don't even pretend to think that it's my job to tell you how to raise our girls. I just don't. I know how what I can do as a bonus dad, but I don't know. I mean, when you in there having girl talk with them and the way y'all interact, it's like they say with AI. The scary thing about AI is you don't know how it actually operates. We just know it's there. It's the same way with you and the girls. I don't understand everything about everything I see
I
with
just
those.
talked to listen, with
Mm.
my girls, I just talked to them about their day. I talk to them about their day. How are things going? I monitor them. What was it like with your friends? Who'd you sit with in the class in the classroom? Who'd you sit with at lunch? What's going on? I get into their world because I want them to be able to talk to me about any sort of issues that they have going on personally in school. I try to make sure that they're okay and I discipline them. There's consequences for behavior. There's rules of the household. You know this, boys. We have rules of the household, and there's consequences if something happens and they don't live up to it. So that's discipline. It's
Yeah,
having consequences, having rules. Every household needs to have some rules
yeah, yeah,
and consequences if you don't follow
and
them.
I do see that, right? And what I also see
But you
is
can do that. Anybody, it's
no,
not
no, no. Well,
gender
um,
specific.
no. I mean, I know that as their bonus dad, there's certain connections that the biological parent has that the stepfather
Well, just
doesn't.
ask them about their day. How about you ask them
Well,
about their
that
day
part
and
I
build a
well
connection?
that part I do. We could talk about that later. But
Okay.
my point is to say though that if it, in my view, if anybody wants to understand why so many black women aren't getting married, a lot of it links to the fact that there's a difference between how the girls are being raised and how the boys are being raised. The girls grow up with their biological same sex parent in the house.
Uh huh.
Most black boys do not have their biological same sex parent in the house. So, the same way you interact with them 20 times a day, most black boys are not interacting with their father 20 times a day.
Well, you
They might
fortunately, I mean, fortunately for you, you didn't have. You didn't fit that scenario because your biological father didn't do that, but
Well,
you had a bonus dad
well, the difference,
who
no, well,
adopted you.
right. The difference was that I
Mhm.
met my father when I was 2, right? If I had met him when I was 12, it would have been a completely different relationship. Because at 2, I didn't even know he wasn't my real father until I was 10 years old, right?
Really?
Yeah, they just
So
didn't.
what was that like to figure? Well, I guess we can talk about that
It
later.
didn't
But
bother me actually. It was like, oh,
you had to have had some questions
yeah, it
about.
made sense. It was like, oh, that's why you're a short, light skinned man. And I'm not like I didn't. It didn't. I just didn't. It wasn't. I wasn't shocked. I wasn't like disappointed or. I think over time I got curious. Like,
Wait, 10 years old,
maybe 9. I don't know.
9. We never talked about this.
Yeah, we gotta talk about it.
We do
Yeah,
need to talk
it
about
didn't.
that
It
because
did.
I'm just
Yeah, it
interested how
wasn't.
you found out,
I
who
did.
told you about it.
Yeah, my dad
If you
told
were
me.
curious about your biological, not even your biological father, but if you were curious about who you were with your biological family, because you had an entire family that you were cut off from. So
Yeah,
that's interesting, but we'll talk about that
yeah, it
later.
did. It really didn't bother
What
me.
that did to
It
you.
didn't. It didn't bother me much because it's almost like, think of it like food.
Huh.
Let's say you were supposed to get, you know, a turkey dinner with green beans and a salad and mashed potatoes, right?
Uh-huh.
And then, but you never got that. But
Yeah.
instead, somebody gave you a roasted chicken with asparagus and sweet potatoes, right? And you're full. You eat the food and you're really full. And then someone says, "Oh, well, that wasn't supposed to be your meal. You were supposed to eat something different." Well, you don't care
You
because
don't care?
you don't care. No,
You're
because
not at all
no,
curious
no.
about
Listen,
what
listen,
that
listen.
turkey dinner is
No,
about?
you might be curious a little bit, but you're like, man, that chicken was really good. But now imagine though that similarly,
Huh.
imagine though if you actually got starved. What if you were sitting there hungry and you had to eat a rat because you were starving because you had no food available? Then you might be a little pissed. Then you're gonna be like, damn, I ate this nasty ass rodent when I could have been eating a turkey dinner. I was supposed to have a turkey dinner with blah blah blah. So I will say if I had grown up without a father, I would have longed for my father. If I'd grown up abused, like in say, I don't know, foster care or something, yeah, that would have pissed me off. Or even let's say that my biological father had been this amazing man who was like a billionaire, and I didn't realize I could have been on mansions and yachts. Yeah. So I was curious about that. I was like, I wonder if my dad's like this rich man who's really
So
successful.
you're fantasizing about
I
this
I did,
mysterious
and the
person.
fantasy died when I was 14 and I met the little Negro, and he was not impressive to me at all.
So that's interesting. I mean, because you know, you not may not be conscious of it, but unconscious, if you're not being impressed with this person who's biologically, you are half of him, right?
Hmm.
His DNA is in you. That's who you are. And to see that, I wonder how then in turn you may have felt about yourself.
Here's how I consciously felt. I don't know about the subconscious because we none of us
Or
does really.
unconscious.
Right.
Mhm.
Here's what I would. I saw my father. I didn't see him as necessarily a deficient human being. I believe in potential. I saw myself as a version of him that fulfilled his potential. I don't
Oh,
look at my father, even to this day, I don't look at my biological dad like he was just meant to be a worthless human being. I look at him as a man who had tremendous ability. My mother used to tell me all the time, your father was really smart, but he got involved in,
really? So
yeah,
that's where you got
but
your brains
right,
from.
right. But listen, she said that he got mixed up in drugs.
Uh-huh.
So maybe that unconsciously is what kept me away from drugs. Where I was like, I don't
Yeah.
want to go down that path. I don't want to waste
So
my
that's
potential.
conscious. You made a conscious effort not to
Yeah.
use drugs
Okay.
because of that, right?
Right, right.
Hmm.
So yeah, and so ultimately, I don't remember. I think it was more like, I think with him and my mother, it was more like kind of unfortunate, um that my mother, I felt bad for my mother having to give birth to me
Hmm.
without any help. When she told me that in that hospital when I was born, it was just me and her and that white nurse.
Okay.
That made me sad because I can only imagine. I started to empathize deeply with how that 16-year-old, 17-year-old, actually 17-year-old girl must have felt.
Mhm.
by herself with this baby.
Mhm.
And I honored my mother. I said, "Thank you so much because you could have aborted me." Planned
Mhm.
Parenthood, I'm sure they were sitting around licking their chops, like, "Ooh, we get to get rid of another black baby,"
Well, what's interesting,
because you didn't have no money.
what's interesting is that abortion was legal, and
Yeah,
but she didn't take that route. So here's the
yeah.
thing. The thing is that are you able to see your biological father in all of his complexities? Like there's some great things about him, there's some not so great things about him, and all the gifts that he's given you. Because there's a lot of parallels, even though the two of you did not have a relationship, there's a lot of parallels between the both of you.
I don't,
He was a speaker. He
yeah,
was good with
I'm gonna just
speaking.
tell you the truth.
And hold on, your biological
Uh,
father was excellent at speaking in front of a large group of people, and so are you. Those are
right,
your gifts, right?
right.
I'm just hearing that your father was brilliant. Well, hello, that's where you got your brilliance. Now, everybody in your family is smart,
Hmm.
but your brilliance is something unique. And I always wondered where that came from, and that's where you got from your
Well,
biological
I
father.
appreciate you saying that. Thank you. But you got to remember how men form bonds and connections. We're not like women. We don't. Our oxytocin receptors are different. You
Yeah,
know
but it is
but it is
possible.
possible for
Thank
sure.
you.
But what I'm saying to you
Mhm.
is that it's hard for me to appreciate anything about my dad because he never took the time. We never had that opportunity to bond and connect.
You didn't.
Yeah,
Or
well,
any of the family. Any, cuz it's
right.
not just that. It's not
r-
just a biological father. It's your entire biological family that you did not get a chance to have a connection with.
That's true. But my mother took me over there a couple of times. But here's the thing, though. I
Mhm.
already had a family. I already had stuff going on. I had cousins I played with. I had two grandmas, one granddaddy, two granddaddies actually. I'm sorry, up until a certain point. I had it was it's like it's almost like with kids, you get one chance when they're young
Mhm.
to really deeply connect with them. They're available. They're open books. And then when they get older, if you ain't been there for them when they were little, they feel their schedule gets full. And they ain't got time for you to come back and try to fix the shit that you should have did when they were two.
Yeah, so
So I'm not saying that
that's why I
right.
wish
Well,
that's why I
I
wish
I get it,
when
but
you were
what
growing up, it
I right.
would
Hold
have
on.
been nice for you to have it would have been nice for you to have had a
I
connection
think
with
that's
that
more for
family.
you. Honestly, I think that's more for you than it is for me.
Well,
Like
I am very
it's yeah,
curious about
right.
your biological family. Like I feel like as your wife, I'm so curious about who Boyce Watkins is. That I would love to meet your biological family.
Yeah, well,
I've
it
never
would.
met
I,
them.
I think that if that's something that would make you feel better, you should do that.
It
Because
would make
I
me
think
feel
you're curious.
better.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you, you're much more curious than I am. It's not because I dislike them. You have to know someone to dislike them, right? You
Yeah.
have to know something about them at least. You have to at least have some connect, right? So the fact that the connection just wasn't really there,
Well, it
me
wasn't encouraged by the adults
it
in
wasn't
your family.
because it would have been confusing as shit. It would have been
How
yeah,
would it have been
because
confusing,
it would
boys?
have been another thing on my plate to do. I already had stuff to do.
Well, it's
I had a father that was around all the time that I had a deep connection with. Because he wasn't all bad. He wasn't perfect. He was a lot of black men went through a lot in Vietnam. They came back. A lot of black men came back really jacked up. Snoop Dogg, I love the fact that he mentioned the fact that the average life expectancy of a black man in Vietnam was 17 seconds. That they were getting murdered the minute they got off the plane. So the fact that my father survived that and then walked away from heroin and decided to still be a dad and to be a consistent, sturdy dude, I honor that man for that.
Mhm. So you do a really good job of painting the picture from the perspective of your adopted father, from the perspective of your biological father, our biological mother, and biological father. I'm curious about you painting the picture of what you went through, like your own experiences,
What I went through was very
because you
yeah.
identify so closely with those individuals that I don't know, I guess on some level, but maybe this is for you and your therapist to talk
Let
about
me explain. Let me
the connection
well you got it.
of what you experience
Right. Okay. So let
and
me
the And
Right. So let me
mhm.
explain. I can give you my analogy how
Okay.
I process a lot of things. I remember I love my therapist and I spend a lot of time with her. Um, my position on it is yes, I have a lot of empathy and sympathy for me. I have a lot of connection to what my inner child experienced and the
Yeah.
difficulties. But I don't look at life. I look at life like a businessman does. I look at the yin and the yang, meaning that if you run a business, you're going to lose more money than you could ever possibly imagine. That's a reality. As a business owner, anybody who owns a business knows what I'm talking about. You're gonna literally look back and be like, "Oh my God, I lost hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars." But then, what if you're smart? What you're gonna also realize is that you didn't just lose money; you made money. And if you made more than you lost, then that's a win. So, to some extent, I look at my upbringing the same way. I look at it like, man, it was painful as shit. It was hard as hell. I went through hell and back. But in my view, my personal perspective, the good outweighed the bad.
Okay. So to
Because hold
me,
on, wait, let me explain.
okay.
Let me finish. Let me finish.
Go ahead.
So in a way, honestly, and I don't know if it's just me or if it's just or if a lot of people can identify with this, but it's almost like if you play in the NFL and you play for the Pittsburgh Steelers and you win a Super Bowl, you have experienced unimaginable pain and discomfort in order to do that. You had to go through, you had to go out in 100-degree heat, do 2-day practices, take hits from 300-pound men, get concussions, go through all kinds of crap. And so when you're hoisting up the Super Bowl trophy, it's a mixed feeling. It's a mixed bag of emotions, right? When Kobe cried because he won that championship and Michael Jordan cried, I believe they cried because they were thinking about how much hell they had to go through in order to win. And but at the end, they wouldn't trade it for the world because the good outweighed the bad,
Okay. So
and that's
all
how I
right, you're
look at.
still talking. Okay,
But
go
that's what I'm
ahead.
saying. But that's how I look at being raised in a tough environment. Typically, tough people come from tough experiences. It's very hard to be a tough person when everything went well. But go ahead.
Okay, so you're calling it a tough environment. I don't know what exactly that means. But it sounds like what you just said, this whole entire eloquent discussion that you're talking about, to me sounds like a bunch of rationalizations.
It could be.
It's a defense mechanism that a lot of people
Mm,
do to cover up how you really felt. The
mm,
anger that you probably had.
mm,
You did not knowing your biological family in some way could have been, it's just something for you to think about. It's an aspect of not knowing parts of yourself
mm.
because they're a reflection of that,
True.
and you do have a lot of aspects similar to your biological father
I'm sure I
that I
do.
think it would be so interesting to explore the good, the bad, and the great of it.
Right.
And just connecting to how you felt. I guess that would be something you should talk with your own therapist. I'm your wife. I ain't your therapist, but it'd be something to think about the feelings you have towards your parents for um the tough, we'll just call it the tough
Mm.
childhood,
Yeah, for
you
sure.
know.
For sure.
And I wonder if there's anger there
Yeah, there was a lot of anger for sure.
on your part toward
Yes.
any of them.
Yeah, yeah. Just I mean, when you go through tough experiences, I think I think anybody would be pissed off about it, right?
Not pissed off, but angry.
Yeah, but all of that, right?
Okay.
Yeah, the anger was there, but also the gratitude must be there as well.
Well,
I cannot look at my
okay.
upbringing and only be mad about it. I have to also be glad about it. Right? Around every curse there's always a blessing, and it's a decision on which one you're gonna focus on. I'm not
Okay.
saying now don't but again though, you're right. It's hard. Like I said,
I ain't your therapist.
think
I
about
ain't
no,
gonna try to do
think
that.
about that Pittsburgh, but seriously, think about that Pittsburgh Steeler who's hoisting up the Super Bowl trophy. He's probably hoisting it up. He got concussions. He got back pain. His ankle probably ain't working right. He's gonna pay a price to have what he's got, right? So my only concern is when I paid the price and I didn't get any reward from it, right?
Mhm.
And you're right. So there is, I think,
These are normal defenses that you're talking, defense mechanisms.
perhaps,
Yeah.
right? Perhaps. Well, defense wins championships. Isn't that what they say in football? So anyway,
Okay.
all right. So we're gonna finish up here, By the way, Alicia's website is coachingwithdralicia.com. If you want to go, if you would like for
If
her
you
to
like
be,
to explore your
if
defenses
you'd like to
and
explore your
tap into your real
defenses,
feelings,
yes, and have her be your therapist because she ain't gonna be mine.
I can't be
Because
your
you're my
therapist.
wife. You're my wife.
Yeah.
I got a person that's my therapist. But anyway, go. You can go to coachingwithdralicia.com. Also, if you want to join Alicia's event, she's doing a Healing Haven event on Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern. She's going to basically explain to you how to live your life stress free.
Why do people feel like stress is just a normal thing in your life? It is not.
Yeah, yeah.
That is not a reality we need to accept.
Mm, yeah, well, you know what? I agree. Well, if you want to get rid of the stress in your life and sort of learn therapeutic techniques on how to deal with that drama free, text the word love to 87948 and we'll send you an invitation to join the event. It's a private Zoom. You can ask questions, you can talk back and forth. It'll be a much smaller group. There won't be, as many people as there might be on a podcast. So if you'd like to join, it's Thursday night at 8 o'clock. Text the word love to the number 87948. And also, Dr. Alicia is going to join me at the All Black National Convention, which is going to be October 25th to the 27th in Lombard, Illinois, right outside of Chicago. We've gathered dozens and dozens of experts from all over the world to literally cover everything from crypto to relationships to stock market investing to physical health and basically, it's just black folks solving our own problems, you know. And so, if you'd like to join us, you can go to allblacknationalconvention.com. That's allblacknationalconvention.com. And also, don't forget this podcast is on Spotify. So, if you look up my name, Boyce Watkins, on Spotify, you can find us there. We're kind of everywhere. So, God bless you, everybody. Have a good day. Thank you so much for hanging out. I'll talk to you guys soon. Take care.
Goodbye, everyone.